in the first place, and he's promising that in 2011 they're going to respond to him, and it just goes on for there. He promises a 30% reduction in taxes. Well, mathematically perfected economy would reduce taxes to less than 30%, probably in the area of 10% or 15%, of what they are. Tops, which, but the thing is, nothing can reduce taxes more than mathematically perfected economy because it eliminates all redundant costs. So no other proposition can compare. And yet this guy's claiming, as a selling percent, point that it's going to reduce taxes 30%. Big deal, And first of all, where's your math, Where'd you get this idea that interest isn't justified? Can you articulate that to us? This guy wouldn't come to our debate.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that we face not only is the government, but obviously the corporations, and as was put by FDR, I believe, was the military-industrial complex.
That was Eisenhower.
Eisenhower, my apologies.
Eisenhower, yeah.
Okay, same area.
Well, almost, a little different.
Almost, yeah.
But
it's
the
true,
fact
though.
of the matter is that Roosevelt accomplished nothing. Basically, he preserved this banking system by, pouring money into, an ever-widening, gaping hole. And, World War II came around, we suffered 10 years of depression and, 5 years of World War II. And on the heels of that, the banking system, parasite as it is, said, well, we need to let the host, revive his supply of blood a little bit. Even though our system destroyed creditworthiness, we'll just give it back to them again. Let them start all over. They've lost everything. If we're going to steal from them, it's better that they produce more for us to steal from them. So let's let them start all over again. That's what happened. Roosevelt didn't save us. He didn't even revive us from the Depression, nor did World War II, do so, which people just associate the other event in the timeline as if it saved us. No, what allowed us to start all over again was just simply starting all over again, wipe the slate clean. Well, the bankers can do it when they want to, and why can't we wipe the slate not clean, but to where it ought to be? That is, what debt do we actually owe? And who's this debt to? Was it to the bankers? Not at all, you see. So we have every right to refinance our debts under mathematically perfected economy, counting all prior payments of interest instead toward principal, which itself will eliminate most debt in the world. And what are these contenders advocating is going to resolve debt to the right levels? How are they proposing to resolve debt at all when existing debts are subject to interest? You see, what proposition do they have that revises all these contracts to the exact right extent? There's no other math of rectitude than this long-standing 1979 prescription for immediately converting any present lie of economy into mathematically perfected economy. I originally provided this to the Reagan campaign before it even got the Republican nomination in 1979. When Ronald Reagan turned to Jimmy Carter and pronounced the $150 billion of federal debt that Carter had accumulated over 4 years as, quote, unforgivable, unquote, he'd already received a proposition of mathematically perfected economy and a proof that Reagan, unless he adopted mathematically perfected economy, would accumulate more debt than Carter. And in fact, that happened, you see. So, there's no excusing these people. There is no excusing. The solution has existed for, that was over 30 years ago. That was 32 years ago.
Yeah, question though, Mike, as well though, is there a need for the rectification of the debt? Because let's face it, these bankers, even if we believe that we owe them any money, have we any obligation to pay it back?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
If we're going to do, we're going to do away with bankers, then to hell with you.
Right. But how do you do the to hell with you, and to what degree do you do the to hell with you? You know,
well, does that become a moratorium on debt at all?
No,
Completely
no.
Quit.
No. There's a math to this. Suppose, for instance, yesterday I bought a $100,000 house with our 100-year lifespan, our typical example, and I haven't even made my first payment on it. Okay, suppose there was no down payment for some reason. All right, just for example. All right. Now, tomorrow or today, we adopt mathematically perfected economy, erasing all debts. I got a $100,000 house for free. What about the guy who spent $300,000 in interest on the $100,000 house next door that he bought 20 years ago and is just about to make his last payment tomorrow? You see, we haven't done a just thing in regard to each of those people. You see, I, on the one hand, haven't paid a cent toward my debt. You see, so there's a just state to restore our debts to, and that is exactly, the math is, to count all prior payments of interest instead toward principal. So what happens to me? I haven't made my first payment under mathematically perfected economy. My current debt under this central banking system would be, just for instance, a responsibility to service it to the extent of $1,000 a month. Okay, so we refinance it under mathematically perfected economy, and those payments, the same principal exists, the same debt of principal exists, but now I'm obligated to pay it out of circulation at an overall rate of $83.33 a month. So my payments are reduced by 1/12 immediately. And in fact, that's a just state of affairs for me, because in fact, I haven't paid toward my debt. Why should I be given that house for free? We don't want to start abandoning principles and doing those kinds of things, because once we do them here or once we do them there, the whole system of logic and necessary principle that we need to hold the whole thing up has been abandoned and compromised. So you never compromise your principles. And this is all we need to do then. You know, is refinance our debts under mathematically perfected economy, counting all prior payments of interest toward principal. Now, if we get to answering the rest of that question, I've actually already answered it in previous programs. So what happens to the other guy who's paid more than the value? Well, I leave it up to the society to decide how they want to handle excess payment. But in truth, you know, to simplify things, we need to just forget about it, because that's the penalty we paid for sitting on our couches watching TV instead of paying attention to the thing that mattered, you see. And so, however a country wants to handle it, there is still the math of propriety, and we have to stick to those principles if we're going to start with a just, sustainable state and maintain it by adherence to those principles.
Yeah, well, I think getting $200,000 back from a bank on a $100,000 home and give that back to the homeowner is a possibility, but not very likely one.
Well, no, you're not going to get it from the banks. The money doesn't exist, just as in our interest thing. But the other thing is that's wrong. Because we can't put $200,000 back into circulation in relation to a $100,000 home, which is mostly consumed at that point. You see, You can't do that. So you have to observe your rules for solving inflation and deflation, and systemic manipulation of the cost or value of money, and inherent irreversible multiplication of artificial indebtedness. So you have an eradication of interest, and then you have an obligatory schedule of payment, and it's basically about where somebody sits along the timeline of servicing that debt under mathematically perfected economy. And so you have a remaining circulation, which should exist, and yes, that much is recredited to the amounts of people. So we are all actually going to receive a tremendous amount of financial benefit from this. But it still has to be an observation of our solution for inflation and deflation, because in order to establish what is an actual just sustainable state, which is this lying congressman is claiming to have accomplished now, and I'm going to undress him, in the near future here. The fact of the matter is the only just sustainable state is exactly that circulation, and this congressman can't give you the formula for that, but it's implied in everything that I've said, and I've even indicated exactly what it is in a prior program. You see, so we can't suggest deviating from this, because we will never have. There is one. It's a sum, just as in basic arithmetic. What is the sum of 7 and 3? It's 10. You see, what is the sum of circulation that we need? It has to be representative of wealth, and it's the remaining value of that wealth. And that's exactly what the circulation has to be. So there is one just method for reestablishing that in every case, and it is to count all prior payments of interest toward principal. And then any remaining value of represented wealth has to be established, introduced into circulation, that's into a circulation which is deficient from being representative of all wealth according to the principles that we've already established. And so this is recredited to the people's accounts of the people, and I suggest a manner for doing that justly as well, because we in fact need to divorce ourselves from this subvertible, unsustainable concept of social security, which needs to be provided for. Nonetheless, the actual inherent objects of which need to be provided for to every country. So anyway, that sums it up in a nutshell. You have to abide by the principles, and there's one method of doing it. 7 and 3 still equals 10. And how do we get to 10 then, given this is this and that is that? This is 7 and that is the 3. They have to be the same. And if we don't start there, we don't have a just state, and we may have a sustainable state, but it will be sustained in justice. The two things are inseparable, justice and sustainability. Thanks so much again for listening. It's an honor to present a fact of singular, immediate, and virtually costless solution to the most vital matter of our time. A fact of singular solution which, owing to the long-standing denial of representation across the world, will be implemented by no more and no less than a vital, worldwide mandate for mathematically perfected economy and absolute consensual representation. That is, ultimately, by no more than your pen. Merry Christmas and best wishes for the new year.